We are now joined by the University of New Mexico and head coach Bob Davie, also joined by linebacker Joseph Harris and quarterback B.R. Holbrook. We'll begin with an opening statement from Coach Davie.
Following Boise State up here, it's kind of like following Lou Holtz at Notre Dame. I mean, tough duty. But, you know, it's funny. You go through this entire day, and, you know, I think back over the last 10 years, I was on the opposite side of this. And every time I would leave media day and go home, talk to Joanne, you'd second guess why you weren't coaching every year. You know, it all kind of comes to a head this time of year. You know, when you're sitting there and you leave here as a media person, at least for me, because I had coached, and all those coaches got to go back and coach. So I'm very appreciative of this opportunity to move forward, be back in coaching. And, you know, it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, we're about to embark on a major challenge. As coaches, we'll probably go from now till February 1st, whenever the signing date, without a day off, 16, 18 hours a day, a lot of frustrations, a lot of heartache, a lot of ups and downs, but there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, and I don't take it for granted. You know, the opportunity to be a head coach again after being out 10 years, I'm really appreciative of this opportunity. And I did, you know, I did learn a lot. I did learn a lot over those 10 years, and that's probably the second question I get asked a lot. The first one, why New Mexico? But the second one, you know, what'd you learn? And I think, and you guys have probably heard me say this, the first thing is, you know, when you're coaching, you always think the other guy has the advantage. Maybe you think he has better players, he has better facilities, he has a bigger budget. There's a fine line. I've learned there's a fine line as you go around this country. And everybody has their problems. They may be a little bit different, but everybody has problems. And we've got a lot of positive things in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We really do. And I'm excited about it, from facilities to the kind of budget we were afforded to go hire good assistant coaches. We've got a lot of positive things. The second thing that I've seen, looking at the really good programs, you know, you have to have an identity. Everybody has it. You just see Boise State leaving out of here. You know, when you picture Boise State, an identity comes to mind. A lot of things. You know, maybe it's the blue field for some people. Maybe it's trick plays. Maybe it's the kind of offense. Maybe it's the continuity of the coaching staff. But they have an identity. And ours is going to be pretty simple. You know, it's out work, it's out a hit, and it's out discipline. And that has to be in alignment with the university you're at, and it has to be in alignment with the state that you're at so it can be sustainable. You know, it can't be something you do for a year or two. I think those things fit with New Mexico, and I think those things fit with giving us an opportunity to be successful. You know, and the last thing that I learned is, you know, the past doesn't have to dictate the future. I really believe that. I use the example, probably the program and the person that made the biggest impact on me, just seeing what Bill Snyder has done at Kansas State, not once but twice. It's remarkable what Bill Snyder has done. Barry Alvarez is one of my best friends. What he did and his coaching staff was able to do at Wisconsin. Certainly Boise, what Boise's been able to do, TCU. The past does not have to dictate the future. But if you want different results, you better change how you do things. And that's what I've talked to our team about. You know, we better change everything that's been done from A to Z if we don't want the same results. And that's what we've been trying to do. You know, I'm not going to sit up here right now and talk about all the things I've seen that I feel positive about. We all know what matters is what's on that scoreboard. But there have been positives. I was mentioning to someone earlier, and I'll say it in front of these guys, when I first sat down with our players, when we first started the off-season program, I'd had a hard time saying I really liked our guys. It'd be hard for me to say that. I probably wouldn't be telling the truth if I said, man, I really like these guys. I like these guys now. It hasn't been perfect. We still got some issues. Not everybody's doing things exactly the way we want them to do it, but for the most part, I like our guys, and that's a big statement. That gives us a chance moving forward. So with that said, there's been a lot of talking done throughout the day. What we're anxious to do is go see what kind of team we can put on the field, see where we're at, because none of us really know. You know, you can think you're going to be able to do certain things. You can feel good about certain things until you go out there and those live bullets start flying, and you have to handle setbacks. I've never been in a locker room with these guys. I've never lost a game with these guys. I've never won a game. I'm not sure what to expect, to be quite honest. But it's time to find out. It's time to find out. So with that said, these two guys up here, you know, a couple goals. I should probably mention that. And this sounds so simple, and it's not just coach speak. If we can be a better team December 1st than we were September 1st when we start, we will be off and running in this program. And that sounds so simple, but when you look closely at our schedule, our early schedule, you look at our lack of depth, lack of numbers, go back and research that, and you can see why that's not an easy goal to reach. If we can be better at the end of the season than we were at the beginning, we will be off and running in this program. And then the second thing, a goal for me, I want these seniors for this to be the best year of football they've ever had in their life. And I want it to be more than football. I want them to leave the University of New Mexico, first of all, seeing what big-time college football is and is supposed to be. But more importantly, I want them to leave getting something out of this year they've had with me. Hopefully they're in a better position to be a better husband, a better father, a better student, a little bit unselfish. That's what's really important. You know, a lot of programs, we've got 25 freshmen coming in. It's all about getting the seniors out of there as fast as they can. I'm opposite of that. These seniors are going to be our leaders. I'm not going to give up on the seniors. I know they won't give up on us regardless of what happens. I want this to be the best year they've ever had in football and walk away with this with a great taste of what college football is supposed to be. So with that said, Joseph Harris is a linebacker. I don't think he's anywhere reached the potential he can reach, period. I don't think you've scratched the surface. I go around this place, I see these other players. I go around the country, I look at players. He looks as good, has as much ability as anybody there is, but he hadn't played that way yet. B.R. Holbrook, I have tremendous respect for him. The only negative coming out of spring is decision-making process. He threw some interceptions. I don't think he's nearly the vocal leader that he's capable of being, but I'm impressed with what he's done over his career. Both these guys, 3 different head coaches, right? Yes. Been through a lot of stuff. So with that, you guys want to take some questions? You want these guys to speak?
We'll go ahead and take some questions, and we'll go ahead and start right back here with Kelly Lyle.
Kelly Lyle with Fort Collins, Colorado. BR, I wanted to ask you just how tough it is. It's going to be every coach comes into New Mexico and they want to change the culture and, you know, change that winning, get the people into a winning attitude. How tough is that going to be given what's gone on the last few years to just change that mindset so that you guys go out expecting to win rather than trying not to lose, I guess?
You know, I guess you kind of hear that message over and over again, and it's almost like running to a wall. Just with so many change going on the last couple of years, you try not to worry about it. You know, as a player, it's not my job to second guess what's going on or what's being said. It's my job to go out on the field and perform, and that's all it comes down to. I mean, it's very simple. So, you know, you hear it and you just buy in. It's as simple as that.
Mike Brohart from the Love and Reporter Herald. Coach, you talked a little bit about in the spring you were short on numbers, and I think it made it difficult for you to run spring the way you wanted to. Can you touch a little bit on those challenges, and then to follow that up, when you get these 25 new freshmen in, how much better will that make it? How much closer will you get to running the practices you'd like?
Yeah, Mike, I think it's obvious that we need toughness. We need toughness, mental toughness, physical toughness. And, you know, we weren't able to hit as much in the spring as I normally would hit. That doesn't mean we didn't hit, just not as much. You know, we had 7 offensive linemen out there. I mean, you can't even put 2 offensive linemen, 2 offensive groups out there. We really had 2 scholarship quarterbacks. One was a true freshman, an early enrollee freshman. So it impacts everything you do, how you practice. It affects competition at positions, obviously. It also affects how players develop, because you're not going against as good a player or as many good players, or do you get as many reps? So there's no question that the numbers dramatically affect how you do things. And I think a lot of people outside of this room probably wouldn't understand that. It helps that we have 25 freshmen coming in. We are going to be able to get to 75 on scholarship. We'll only be 10 scholarships down. But we're fortunate that we do have some walk-ons that I've been very impressed with. I mean, make no mistake that walk-ons are a key element of our program moving forward. We obviously need 10 more walk-ons than everybody in the country just to get to 85. So there's 10 walk-ons that are more important to us than anywhere else in the country, just getting to the scholarship number. But it does affect everything you do.
Coach Mick McGrain from the Mountain West Conference, obviously you talked about your seniors earlier, and the numbers there are pretty good, and then they start to tail off in your junior and sophomore class.
Right.
Have you ever seen a program where seniors are going to be so crucial to the success of a program?
They're always crucial, but I think your point, Mick, is I've never seen a roster so unbalanced, where you were so top-heavy with seniors. I mean, I think there's 10 or 12 of these kids that Rocky Long recruited, these two included, that are fifth-year players. Then you have a lot of transfers that have transferred from other schools that really get that senior class up to, I think, 22 or something. Then there's very few juniors and sophomores. Then you have these 25 freshmen. So it's unique. It really is. And it's going to be something that's going to take a couple years to manage, because that senior class is leaving. So if you picture us next spring out there, well, we're really short, because there's not many juniors and sophomores. But at the end of the day, you only have to put 11 out there. You really do. But I've always relied on seniors. I've just never had that gap from seniors to freshmen. And I've never had so many different stories with seniors. You're talking about guys that have been three head coaches. And then you're talking about, if you look at our other seniors, most of those guys have transferred, been at least at one or two other schools. So it's kind of a melting pot, hodgepodge of guys. But there is some talent there, and there's some great people in there. You know, so it's kind of exciting, but it's just a little scary because the roster's so unbalanced.
Rick Wright, Albuquerque Journal. This is for Joseph, but the same question to BR. Joseph, you guys are picked to finish last. There's no logo on the preseason all-conference team. Do you need that as motivation at this point, or just being a fifth-year senior in this program that's won just 7 games since you've been here, is that motivation enough?
Winning just 7 games is motivational enough. Also seeing that it's pretty disappointing, and it makes you want to play harder and faster and stronger. And I don't believe that to be true, that we are the last in the conference, but it's and then we don't have any all Mountain West Conference players on the team, or on the team. I believe that's just preseason. You know, when we play the game and everybody gets out there playing tough, I think at the end of the season we'll have more than what we started with, a whole lot more.
Yeah, definitely. I think they call it preseason for a reason. I mean, you're not really tested, and I think during the course of the year we'll be able to show the talent we do have, and the talent I believe we do have. So I think it's just kind of a factor that we haven't performed well in the past, and I think that just influences the teams, I guess.
Mark Anderson, Las Vegas Review Journal. Coach, as an analyst for 10 years, how did you view the Mountain West Conference, and now in the Mountain West, how do you view it?
Yeah, Mark, that's a good question. You know, I've seen it change. You know, obviously Urban Meyer was on my staff 5 years at Notre Dame, so I followed Utah. I've played against some Mountain West Conference teams. You know, we played against Air Force almost every year at Notre Dame. We played BYU. You know, if I had to say a couple words that jump out at me about this conference moving forward, I think number one, it's parity and opportunity. You know, you really look at, 5 new coaches in this conference. You look at all the teams, particularly next year after Boise leaves. There's no one that's just ahead of anybody else. So you've got a lot of schools, a lot of programs fighting to be the next team to emerge. So I see parity, I see opportunity, and then the other thing is geography to me. You know, you go and do Southeastern Conference games or you go around that league, unbelievable atmospheres like there is in the Big Ten or the Big 12, but all of them are pretty much the same. Big Ten, all the same. You know, great places. Geography in this conference is unbelievable. When you think about going to Hawaii, and you go to Colorado State, you go to Air Force and play in that game day experience, Wyoming, Albuquerque, come to Las Vegas and play. That's different. Nevada, you know, it's geography. I think it's neat because you play in a lot of different settings. And you know, so that's kind of what jumps out to me about this league moving forward. I think it's pretty exciting. I think in recruiting, players like the idea of this conference. So be a bunch of guys scratching and clawing over the next 5 years to emerge, because I think it's pretty even.
Tom Scott from KTVB. For both BR and Joseph, why do you think Coach Davey says he did not like his players in the winter?
I knew I shouldn't have said that.
And he does like them now. What's the difference? What has made the difference? And you know, how have you guys transformed in this period of time?
BR, let's have you start.
You know, I would say it's probably the lack of leadership that we kind of had in that kind of limbo period before Coach came in. And I think Coach Davey has really given us that leadership platform that we've needed. He's provided us with so much input that this new perspective that we got from him. So, and I would probably say because we didn't meet his expectations at the beginning, I can understand why he says that.
Joseph?
Well, I think
I liked you two guys. Can we get that on the record? You know?
Coach Davies probably said that because coming in here, he didn't know us as you know, personally. He didn't know us as players, and you can't just meet somebody and say, "Oh, I like this guy." You can think that you like that person until you get to, you know, hang out with him, work out with him, especially, and be in the trenches with him, and then you will really know after hanging out with them for a certain amount of time if you really like that person or not. So when Coach Davies came and said he didn't like us, he didn't know us, you know. And then now he does know us. He did say he likes us now.
This is for both players. I suppose if anybody knows anything about change, it's you guys. But can you talk about the drain that is on you to keep consistently be getting a new message, and how you're dealing with doing it for a third time?
Joseph, we'll start with you this time.
It's just adapting. I've been here for 5 years with 3 coaches. It's changed, you know, almost every year it seems like. But I've adapted well to change now, and I feel like if we don't change for the better, you know, then things will be the same. And we don't want things to be the same around here. We had a 1-11 season, and we need some change. And I think this season will be the changing season.
You know, I viewed it as a positive. I mean, I've been through 4 offensive quarterback coaches, and I've gotten so many perspectives on any one given play that I could tell you a number of ways to read a certain coverage on a certain play, how I feel a best way to do something, or a number of things like that. So I've really viewed it as a positive to get all those experiences and points of views.
We, of course, have some social media questions in on our Twitter and Facebook. Put these down a little bit earlier. BR, I'm going to start with you, and the first one from Tom Harris from Santa Fe. He said, with a receiving core like Ty Kirk, Lamar Thomas, Lucas Reed, along with Casey Carey in the backfield, you guys have pretty exciting potential on offense. How has that group and yourself gelled during the offseason?
You know, just routes on there every day. I think being with these guys for the past 5 years has really given me an understanding of how each of them run their routes, where they're going to be, the way they like to do certain things. So I think just understanding how they do things and the way I do things, I think coming together for as long as we have been has really helped us.
And for you, Joseph, how does playing against that type of offensive power get you excited for this season, and how is the new scheme that the new coaching staff is implementing helping you get prepared for 2012?
Playing against our offensive scheme is challenging, they they have a lot of trick plays and a lot of like mischief in the backfield that it's kind of hard to see where the ball is at sometimes. But when you practice against offenses like that, it really challenges you to keep your eye on the ball. Know your job and not to do anybody else's job. And when we practice, it keeps you humble with your position. You have to do what your job is and trust that your man next to you does what his job is. And going against our offense at practice, it really humbleizes me.
Bob, I know this may sound simple, but I know that you get new field turf. How much of a correlation is something that simple to just starting to change that culture?
I think that's a great point. I think maybe I get asked all the time, would you rather play on grass or play on field turf? I almost think it's more symbolic than anything. Nobody's ever played on that field yet. So when you talk about the past doesn't dictate the future, it's a new field. And I think it shows the significance of football. I think it's a statement. I mean, that field's expensive. It's interesting when you get into the dynamics. A lot of people have field turf, but the real investment comes in the pre-base and how they put in the gravel and the different levels of gravel, quality of gravel. I mean, we've got a big-time field. I mean, we've been out and made a big investment. So there's definitely an emphasis on football and moving forward. So, without reading too much into it, that field's not going to win us a game or lose us a game necessarily. But I think it is pretty neat that you come in as a new head coach and you got a new playing field and a new surface to go play on. So I like it.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. We will have a one-on-one session with Bob Davie for the next half an hour.